Hello, everybody. Psychic Soul Senses. I'm here with you again today because we're going to do part two of Jerry Marzinsky's research on schizophrenia and psychosis patients. Okay, now he has done several interviews I've told you all about. His page on YouTube is um, hang on, I'm going to share the page so I can show you guys. Here he is, Jerry Marzinsky, or Marzinsky. I keep saying it wrong, sir. Not like you'll ever hear me, but engineering mental sanity. He's got a lot of stuff on here. Um, I stumbled onto his work, like I said, through some of my favorite channels, um, which is one was Raised by Giants, and Ryder is the host there. The other one is let's see if it's on here. Jay Widener and his channel. Let me think what his channel is. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank, but Jay Widener, you can type him in and it'll show up. So he's been interviewed and he's got a couple of great interviews out about this information. Now, last night, he was doing an interview with Ryder on Raised by Giants again, and they were talking about how meth patients, people on methamphetamines, when they hallucinate, how sometimes the hallucinations manifest. And then when they come down, the hallucination's gone. And that it'll do that the first couple of times. But then one time, eventually, they're going to open that door and it manifests. And when they come down, it's still there. So he talks about that. Now, that'll be on one of the last videos that we talk about his stuff on, because we're going to go from the beginning. Now, I started getting into this and refresh everybody because my child was labeled, was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and now displays full-blown psychosis, which started out small and was from meth. I'm going to stop this share because it's starting to lag. And when I do show his stuff, I want to do it without my clip. So I don't like it when it lags and acts crazy. So now, I've told you that some of the things that she talks about is being God, like writing the Bible. Her dad committed suicide the day after her birthday, her 21st birthday, the day after. It was awful. I mean, that was poor timing. You know, what can you do? So went down here hill ever since, but she claims that her dad is alive and that he is waiting for a body, whatever that is. One time she said he's very much alive, he just doesn't look the same, and that he is a Russian agent. and was hiring her. So it gets kind of crazy. If you weren't if you're not used to someone in that aspect, sorry, I have hair everywhere. If you're not used to someone in that aspect, it'll scare you. The first time you experience it, it'll scare you. It scared the crap out of me. Okay, so that being said, I am going to find his interview. I think we're going to use Raised by Giants. And this is educational purposes only. And if you would like to find any more information about Ryder or Raised by Giants, the channel, you can go over there. I doubt he'll know me, but you can tell him I sent you. And like, his stuff and subscribe. He's good. He's really good. And so let's go ahead and pull up some of Jerry's interview and try to see if we can understand or get into the mind of a paranoid schizophrenic or a person in psychosis. All right, here we are. All righty. I gotta do something real quick, guys. All right, so let's look on here and see what we can. I like how big my pointer is. If it's not that big, I can't find it. All right, so hang on just a second. Okay, we're going to start at the beginning because Ryder Lee, the person interviewing on this channel, the owner of this channel, will like it. Like it. I'm already subscribed. I love his stuff. I watch a lot of it. This is for learning purposes only, educational purposes only. And excuse me. I wanted to play it from the beginning so that Ryder Lee gets the right credit here. And then we'll skim through the video and talk about it. He's got a cool intro. Check this out. Yeah, kind of extreme there. We like it, Ryder. We like it.
Welcome back to Raised by Giants Illuminated Insights discussion. We are live. Welcome.
Okay.
Throwing all these questions at her that only somebody who had heard the voices.
Abraham,
it's kind of experimenting with schizophrenic patients, trying to figure out what is going on in their heads. And I ran into a very unusual case. And one day when I was talking to her over the computer, I told her what the deal was. And she says, "Oh, I know all about that. I heard voices when I was a young woman and they almost killed me." And this was after 10 years of working with her. She never mentioned a word of that. And this is Sherry Sweeney. She's the co-author of this book. So I started throwing all these questions at her that only somebody who had heard the voices would know the answer to. And like bam, 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 she was just one after the other, just knocked them off. There was no doubt that she had experienced them. She knew what they were and how they operated. And I was blown away. After 10 years of knowing her, talking to her virtually every day, she never mentioned it. So that's how much of a stigma
Yep.
the word schizophrenia has
Yep.
on people. Yeah. They
See, it is very stigmatized, and it doesn't get the proper care. You cannot, sorry, Lawrence County, not sorry. You cannot decide you're going to take someone with schizophrenic behaviors or is schizophrenic or has the tendencies or psychosis or whatever and put them in your quote unquote not a rehab, but it is a rehab for mentally ill. You can't do it and get them off of this stuff successfully. All you're doing is furthering their mental illness. All right. I feel like they've won with the rehabs. Let this one go to the professionals. Lawrence County needs to get their hands off of this one. There's too many people that have ended up in a psychotic state or taking psychosis or becoming schizophrenic, so to speak, due to drugs. Okay. Normally, when that happens, it's because there's an underlying mental something there, a block, a wound, a trauma, whatever it may be. Okay, so just don't see how they plan on fixing it with rehab. Anyways, rant over. This guy is awesome. It shouldn't be as stigmatized as it is. That's why my daughter won't get treatment. It's a bad rep, bad name.
So what was happening was a consistent pattern started appearing. The second one that appeared was that they were anti-religious. I had patients come to me and say, when I repeat the 23rd Psalm, the voices act like worms thrown on a hot frying pan. You know, they act up. They won't let me read the Bible. They get loud when I start reading the Bible. They get loud when I go to church. They don't want me to go to any religious activities. And it was on and on and on. So once I hear that once, I start asking all these other schizophrenic patients if the same thing happened to them. And it did. It was consistent.
And what's crazy about that, though, I have to be the good guy, the good cop and the bad cop, because it's only me chopping this up. You wonder how he asks them, because if they're mentally ill, they might just agree, right? Or if they're in a bad place. But actually being around these people or people in her condition, there is a pattern that forms. And you start to see that pattern. And when you do, it's undeniable. It's undeniable that that's what's going on. And I could always tell when she was going back into a fit because she would start saying the same stuff over and over again. Assassins, the fate of our union, liberties, our freedoms are being like all that stuff that we deal with now, but it was more stronger for her and and different. Okay, I want to say to start out the reason or how it first started with her major symptoms of psychosis or schizophrenia was that she would see events play out that were not true. Like she started out accusing people, multiple people, of molesting her children. That's where I took it back to, oh, she never took care of her feelings about what happened to her. That's how I figured out those emotions had come back. So I talked to her about that stuff and tried to help her work through it. We've tried to work through that one several times, and she still continued to make life worse. So she even tried to get the state of Texas to go after her brother and prevented him from visiting his father over a lie. So I had to take care of that. But when she's sober, she knows none of that happened. It's really weird. Sorry, slight interruption. Check this out. Some more.
Jewish people, so it affects the Jews. I've heard from Muslims, and I've heard from people all over the Christian world. It's they don't like any positive religion. They don't want people feeling good. They don't want them feeling better.
And that would take into account not only religion, but spiritual practice, right? Because you can be a spiritual individual and live a positive life without religion. So that would take into account, yoga and meditation. Yeah. They don't like any of that too, correct?
Right. No, they can't stand it. Matter of fact, I just got back from a all expenses paid conference in Romania where the head of this yoga organization wanted his people to understand that these things exist and that they affect them. He's going, they need to wake up to the fact that these things are out there. And they don't just hit schizophrenics, they hit us all. You could be walking down the street and, us today.
It doesn't just hit schizophrenics, it could hit us all. It's an entity. He's got 20 years of research in this. Let's listen some more.
But we're science oriented. I mean, we know what's going on. There are no demons. It's just that's wives' tale. Hockey, that's horse hockey. They're out there, and the most devastating trick that the devil's ever pulled was to convince the populace of this planet that he doesn't exist. That allowed.
Right there. He is so correct. That's the main thing I learned when I had my spiritual awakening. The biggest trick ever pulled, making you believe that God don't exist or that he don't exist, that it's not real. The biggest trick and the wool over your eyes is if that happened in biblical times, it can't happen now. Right? Why is that? Why is that? I don't understand it.
Allows him to cause so much more trouble.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was just Christianity or if it was because why would these demons just be specific to one religion when there's several thousands of religions out there?
No, I know. I've heard from Jewish people, so it affects the Jews. I've heard from Muslims, and I've heard from people all over the Christian world. They don't like any positive religion. They don't want people feeling good. They don't want them feeling better.
And that would take into account not only religion, but spiritual practice, right? Yep. Because you can be a spiritual individual and live a positive life without religion. So that would take into account, yoga and meditation. Yeah. They don't like any of that too, correct?
Right. No, they can't stand it. Matter of fact, I just got back from a all expenses paid conference in Romania where the head of this yoga organization wanted his people to understand that these things exist and that they affect them. He's going, they need to wake up to the fact that these things are out there. And they don't just hit schizophrenics, they hit us all. You could be walking down the street and, you know, uh, somebody cuts you off or something and you feel like killing the guy, or it just comes out of nowhere. It's a negative thought to do something violent or jump off a bridge. I remember, one of the holiest preachers I ever knew. He was standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and a thought bolted into his head. Jump, just jump. And I've heard that from scores of people who are standing on bridges or driving, so going, why don't you just drive in oncoming traffic? Those thoughts don't come from you. See, so that's one of the things that is really intriguing about this. These entities put those thoughts in your head. They insert them. They sound just like all the other thousands of thoughts that go through your head on a regular day, but they're not your intent. They're not your.
So basically, it's like when you were a kid and you were taught your positive thoughts are God speaking to you, and your negative thoughts are the devil speaking to you. Whichever one you feed is the one that's going to grow, that's going to get the most attention, that's going to have the most impact and the biggest influence. Correct? Even if it comes in a whim. So this is where they're getting people, especially people on drugs and younger, because you're not completely mentally developed. The drugs have opened that door wide open for you. Through my study of illicit drug use, I have learned a lot of stories about people having spiritual experiences. Hi. So somewhere a door gets opened between that drug and your neurosystem. There's an open door. So, all right, I think I want to listen to a little bit more. There's a lot of good nuggets in here, but again, this is for educational purposes only. And it's not my video. I don't want to mess around too much more. Ryder does excellent work over there, so, and it's hard. I know it's hard work.
Your intention. They don't belong to you. And one of the biggest struggles schizophrenics have is, what are these voices? Are they me, or what are they? I mean, where do they come from? Because we're all taught from the time we're little kids that any thought that goes into your mind, it belongs to you. That's far from true. Your brain is like a radio receiver. You turn it to different channels, and wherever you tune it to, that's the stations it picks up.
Yep.
So
I believe that.
You got negative and positive stations playing all the time.
Yep.
It's where you turn the dial to and what you choose to attend to.
Yep.
So schizophrenics usually have their dials jammed because the vast majority of them have been severely traumatized in some way or another, physically, sexually, emotionally.
There you go.
The trauma is one of the big things that crack people open.
Yes.
And allow these things in there.
Yes.
Because it kind of programs you to a negative program.
Yes.
And
negative frequency.
That's like a virus that kind of stays in your brain and kind of jams the tuner to a negative frequency.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest takeaways that I took from your book since I read it around 3 years ago was, where do our thoughts come from? And I've asked several people.
All right, we can stop there. I don't want to botch up his interview. Bravo, bravo. That's basically what I wanted to get out of that today. I am going to do a part 3. We'll go through his second interview in the third part also. And I hope I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope you got some information from this. I hope it helped in any way. Um, so if you are a local Lawrence County and you happen to run into someone with psychosis, um, don't be afraid. Try to talk to them, try to communicate, try to get them help in any way that you can without involving the police. Um, because they can be a danger to them. The police are dangerous. So, but anyways, that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this, learned anything, got anything, stayed with me. Like, share, and subscribe. Be the reason someone believes in good people. And I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.